allow myself to introduce myself. I'm Rob Chappers.
I'm the captain.
I'm Drew.
Boom! And we're at Andertons.co.uk here to show you the fantastic new ID amplification series from Blackstar.
Tell us about it, Drewski.
Well, these are our first ever non-valve products. This is the Blackstar ID amp, which basically is a digital amp which is programmable, has got lots of really cool features we're going to talk about today, and sounds very, very good, as you're going to hear.
Now, you're quite keen, aren't you, as Blackstar, to distinguish yourself between this is not a modelling amplifier,
No,
is it? So
this is not a modelling amplifier.
How is it not a modelling amplifier?
It's not, but basically, Bruce, who is the brains of Blackstar,
he's just
one
here,
of the big
isn't he?
brains.
Hi, Bruce.
He's sort of grown up with valves and knows how the signal path works and all that sort of stuff. So he's basically translated that signal path into digital. So this reacts and feels in the same way as a valve amp. So with a modelling amp, what they do, they take those classic amps and they'll record them and they'll sit there and they'll tinker until it sounds like it.
Yeah.
The way they've done this, they've sort of gone at it like you would go at a valve amp, so with the circuitry and the way it breaks up and all that sort of stuff.
So it's a valve amp with no valves, basically, is what
in
you're saying.
a roundabout way.
Okay.
I mean, the bit that we noticed as soon as we engaged the true valve power mode is the volume difference. I mean, certainly if you're used to playing any sort of modelling or solid state amplifier, it's very complicated, I think, as a customer, because you see an amp that says it's 50 watts, and then you see a digital amp that says it's 50 watts, and then you see a valve amp that says it's 50 watts, and so of course naturally you would just assume that they'll be the same volume, but they're not at all. No. The valve amplifier is always 2 or 3 times louder than the solid state one. But this, in its true valve power mode, you make some quite bold claims, don't you, that it's the same?
It's as loud as its valve equivalent. So this is a 60 watt, and we've cranked it. And
so it's as loud as an HC60?
Yeah.
Not quite, because that's 2x12, so that's sort of a slightly.
Oh, there you go.
But then we get into the whole: is a 2x12 louder than a 1x12?
Well, yeah. It moves more air.
Yeah,
moves more air.
But certainly we noticed, didn't we? As soon as we plug this in, it feels like it's moving a lot more air than
well, the first thing that struck me was the amount of low end afforded from this little tiny. Well, it's not that tiny really, but it really kicks out the low end frequencies across the room, doesn't it?
So what's the range going to be?
We have a 15 watt with a 10-inch speaker, a 30 watt with a 12-inch speaker. 60
they're not coming till next year, though.
They'll be here
in
sort of January 2013 next year, so a few months away. This one, 60 watt 112, 60 watt 212 stereo, 60 watt head and 100 watt head, and then 4x12 angled and straight.
Cool.
I prefer mine straight, and I really like it. No, something that I was saying to Lee when we sort of turned up a little bit of a jam and a bit of a workout what this is all about is that a lot of amplifiers of this ilk have a really sort of great crystal clean sound and pretty good, you know, saturated gain sounds, but they often miss the mark with the crunch tones. And something that I think this is really, really good is great crunch tones.
Cool.
I agree.
And that's hard. I think that's hard to do. So we applaud you.
So I think what we're going to do in the video here is we're going to basically we're going to choose one of the preamp settings, mix it with one of the power amp settings that recreate some sort of classic heritage amplifiers, and we'll just play through some of that.
M and F type heritage amplifiers.
M and F? Oh, M and F, sorry, I thought you were saying M and S. Yeah, that kind of thing. We're going to show you the foot switch that you can purchase as an optional extra.
Actually, we've got to say, that's a badass looking foot switch.
It is badass.
Yeah.
Blackstar.
I want that just to put on a board.
Okay, so whilst Rob's tuning, just give you the quick lowdown on this Footswitch. Now it is an optional extra, so it's another £49 on top of the amp, and you think, well, that's quite a lot of money, but it's a lot of Footswitch. So Footswitch has 4 buttons and 3 basic modes that it's going to work in. You can change the modes by holding down this button here. So you can either set it in channel mode, then essentially what happens is each one of these just recalls one of your 128 preset settings you can have in here. So the middle 2 buttons, if you hold them down, go up and down in banks, and then basically the 4 buttons here just switch. The second one, if you hold this down, we go into effects mode. So this button turns on and off the reverb, this turns on and off the delay, this one the modulation, and the end one works as a tap tempo. And
you can also, by pressing and holding the delay or the modulation button before you turn the effect on, you can preset the tap tempo before you turn the effect on.
Very cool.
Which is cool.
They thought of everything.
Yeah.
And then the bottom buttons here in store mode even allows you to actually store a sound that you really like without actually having to go back to the amp panel. So there's a lot of goodness here. Works off, this I really like as well. A lot of these kind of high feature type foot switches require like a really complicated like SCART plug or telephone style.
Plug.
What do you call them? You know what I mean? Like
a DIN. Is it
DIN
a DIN
plug?
Like a printer cable thing.
Yeah, and if you lose that, you know, you can't just go, I've got another cable. This just uses a regular guitar cable. So if you lose your Footswitch cable, you can just basically rob any other guitar cable that you have and use that. So that's what the Footswitch does.
And the tuner.
And it's got a tuner built in as well. Tell us about the effects though, because that's pretty simple, isn't it?
The effects, you've got 3 different types of effects and 4 of each. So you've got reverbs, delays and modulations. You've got a hall reverb, a room reverb, spring reverb, a plate reverb, then delay-wise, linear delay, analog delay, tape delay and a multi-delay, which is kind of space echo-y.
Nice.
Modulation, phaser. You've got a flanger in there as well.
A flanger.
A chorus and a tremolo.
Tremolo.
Yeah.
Marvellous.
Tremolendulous.
You have a USB socket on the front of this, don't you?
You do, just here.
What can we do with our USB sockets?
There is also a GUI, which is a graphic user interface.
Yes.
Which basically allows you to control pretty much everything that's on the front of the amp, with the exception of the master volume, presence and resonance. You can also have audio playback, so you can upload WAVs and MP3s into the software. There's a phrase trainer where you can slow tracks down, set a loop in, set a loop out point. So if you want to
slows them down but keeps them the same tuning and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a preset section where you've got up to 128 presets, which you can also access via the Footswitch. There's a tuner. There's going to be an online community where you can download artist presets, share patches.
So this is something that will be...
Share's got some patches on it.
Share has, yeah.
Wow. Do you believe? Honestly, she's one of my favourite guitarists of all time as well.
She's got great tone.
She's not as good as Madonna. Madonna's a much better guitar player than Cher. So this is going to be something that's constantly updated?
Yeah, there is potential for that to happen down the line, yeah. So basically, if we were to do an update, then you simply...
plug it into a computer,
connect your computer to the internet, download that, and plug that in there, and that talks to that. And
tell me about the
boom! It's done.
Oh, he's self-boomed.
Reamping. You can reamp with it via the USB thing. So by using the USB as an emulated out means that you can send more than one signal of audio, which means you can send a wet signal, i.e. your affected signal, and a dry signal. Straight face. So a wet and a dry signal, keep your straight face. So with the dry signal, you can send it back through the amp. So if you played a wicked take, you can send it back through the amp and put whatever settings you want on it. So therefore, it's good.
It's very good.
And they're affordable. They're affordable, which is clearly the whole point of you know, you might ask yourself, why are manufacturers obsessed with making digital amplifiers rather than real valve amplifiers? And it's all cost and reliability, really. You know, valve amplifiers are by their very nature expensive, heavy, and often not terribly reliable because of the nature of valves. So, you know, if you can have an amp that's using this technology, it's going to be cheaper, more reliable, and lighter, I guess, as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
they are lighter.
So let's see, let's hear it.
We've just got the preamp set on a crunch, and I'm going to switch through the 6 different amp types to just show you how they react and break up and give you different sort of tones, basically. So we're starting on an EL84, I'm then going to a 6V6, then I'm going to an EL34, then I'm going to a KT66, then I'm going to a 6L6, and then I'm going to a KT88. So you play, I'll twiddle.
Okay. Cool. I'm going to keep it really simple, just power chords, so that we can really focus on the tones rather than the playing.
Yeah.
Is we're using the emulation of the 6V6 tubes with a bright, clean preamp tone. That should emulate the power, the sort of tube characteristics of a small Fender amplifier, a small tube Fender amplifier. It's from the yesteryear.
Yesteryear.
Cool. Nice. Next.
I think the one thing you get when you play it is you sort of feel the dynamics of it, and when you back off, it cleans up.
Yeah, well, let's just show that really briefly. So here's an E major chord for you kids. Back it off and it cleans. Sounds great.
Cool.
So, this next one is going to emulate some of the bigger Fender amplifiers, or typically the bigger Fender amplifiers. So we've gone over to using the 6L6 power section with the warm clean for the preamp setting.
And I've set my ISF to the American.
Oh, good shout. ISF. We didn't talk about that, did we?
It's got ISF.
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 Invisible shield velocity.
Intercity firm. Spelt slightly wrong and less hooligan style.
Infinite shape feature.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's
Infinite shape.
Infinite shape feature.
Wow, that's interesting. So you have an infinite parameter modulating dilithium setting.
That as well.
Wow, yeah. That's amazing.
That's good.
Roll the tone off your neck pickup and do a bit of that BB King kind of like. That's it, that's what I wanted. So this is the EL84 Power section with the bright clean, driven a little bit.
And the ISF just cranked a bit over to the British
side, I hope. Yes, we're going to try and make this sound like an AC30, so do it. Phenomenal
proper kick-in bass end like a fat lass.
Drewski has dialed me in now the right settings to get like a Marshall blues breaker type tone. So we're using a KT66, quite an unusual output tube there, but it's correct for a 62 blues breaker. KT66 output tube emulation. We're back to the bright clean but sort of driven preamp setting.
Yeah, that KT kind of gives you that sort of gnarly mid-range.
Yeah. Gnarly mid-range.
So let's hear some Clapton specific.
Sounds really good. Yeah, very good.
Now we're going to whiz 20 years into the future. We're going to go to the 80s, and we're going to do the JCM 800 classic kind of rock sounding amp.
Gina works at diner all day. Yes, she does. What you love, man? She brings home a plate for love. For love. You know the chorus.
We're still on the JCM 800 mode, but we've just, what have we done? Backed off the preamp a little now, haven't we?
I put it on no.
Or we backed it, or turned it up.
He's just playing a different riff.
It's just playing a different riff with the same sound.
This is just uncannily sounding like what it should sound like.
Okay, now we're moving on to try and emulate like a Boogie Dual Rectifier type output. The Boogie Dual Rec was one of the first amps to use, one of the first really high gain amplifiers to use a 6L6 in its power stage. So what it did was it took the kind of the classic Marshall sound, but added more bass end and more sort of breadth, I think, to the sound with a very high gain preamp signal going through it too. So here we go. So we're using the 6L6 power stage with OD1 for its preamp stage, and this will be classic 90s metal. I have to say at this moment, it's possibly one of the best little 1x12 combos I've ever heard.
I would agree with you. The thing is, Blackstar make a lot of really, really good, affordable, you know, low sort of cost, high, amazing amplifiers, some of which I use.
Didn't you use one on a recent recording?
I did use one recently on the recording of a tune called Aeromancy by my band Dorje.
What one did you use?
5 me for that.
You did 85.
We used the emulated output of an HT1.
Head.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or the, yeah.
Actually, emulated outputs of Blackstar are superb though, aren't they?
And the cool thing about that was that we, if you saw the video, we had 8 amplifiers that we were completely like, we'll just use whatever sounds great. And some of those amplifiers were very expensive. And the HT1 emulated out just sounded outstanding. So we blended it with another amp.
Cool. Yeah. So we have one more amp to go, and whilst we're talking about Blackstar, that's appropriate because the final one that we're going to do uses KT88 valves, which are huge power output valves and are used in the 200 watt Blackstar Series 1 amplifier.
That's just
It's sick, isn't it?
unreal. Wow.
It's really... Now, we have to say, there is one utterly pointless feature on these amplifiers, isn't there?
Is it the off button?
It's the button that turns the true valve power kind of emulation off.
It's not pointless.
It's
It
pointless.
just lets you know what TVP does.
It just basically, I think what is Blackstar rubbing it in, going, this is what other amps sound like with it off. This is what ours sound like. So yeah, pointless feature because you're never going to switch the true valve power mode off.
Shall we do it?
Go on.
This is what other generic digital amps
Okay,
sound
hold
like.
on. Wait, you're kidding me, seriously?
That's what the button does.
Seriously?
Why would you turn it off?
It's like going to Megaphone Man. Turn it off again.
Wow.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it?
It's very good.
But I've been Rob Chappers.
I've been the captain.
That's been Drew. Boom!
Three-way.
Oh, 3-way. Boom!